are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Good morning, Ethan.
Good morning.
It is, isn't it? It's such a lovely day.
It's fantastic.
I feel like a superhero today.
You are, in fact, a superhero. You're a superhero to many. You're a superhero of achieving equality across the board.
Oh, thank you.
Charity for all.
I came in this morning to get my ego stroked. Thank you, Ethan.
Those are the facts of the matter, my friend. That's not, I can't even bash you over those qualities. That's a stellar aspect to the personality, and that's what makes you Adrian Paul to so many.
Thank you so much. But this morning, really, there are many other superheroes out there. Did you ever have superheroes when you were a kid?
Did I have superheroes?
Yeah. Did you? Which ones did you kind of liken to?
Actually, Nolan Cromwell, strong safety of the Rams in the 1980 Super Bowl against the Steelers, was probably one of my heroes.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think.
What about like action heroes, like any cartoon or animation stuff? Was there any of that stuff?
I wasn't big at cartoons, but if you look back to the 70s, 80s, they were really kind of, in my opinion, god awful. A lot of them. Yes,
you're right.
And they were very, very abusive. It was all about dropping safes on people and dynamiting people and Acme explosive
like the
charges.
Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
So I didn't really catch up with that. Because we all really, I think, wanted to silence the Roadrunner in my house. I think that beep beep was something we're like, when is this guy finally going to put us all out of our misery and succeed in killing this?
Actually, I just
animal?
saw something last night on Shark Tank. It was an old episode, but they had this mother and father that had come in and found this. They called it squeaky knees, which was these pads that they put in babies' knees that they could walk around, and they would squeak and they'd be going beep, 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 beep. Is that getting annoying? That's what they said. They said, this is ridiculous. It's going to get so annoying. And they said, no, it doesn't. When we come home, it's so endearing. I'm like, I think if you listen to it all the time, it might get a little annoying. I don't know. But
For sure. But, interesting question you asked about superheroes, because you and I, about the same age. We
28?
Yeah, 28,
yeah,
29.
Yep.
We weren't inundated with superhero movies.
I don't know. I was actually, I think I saw Batman, the TV version.
But see, that was 10 years. That was 10 years earlier.
That's a
and honestly,
69, something like that.
Yeah, see, that's actually before I was born.
I was I was in the cradle when that happened.
And honestly, that wasn't very good. I thought that was pretty atrocious.
No, it was pretty bad.
But the big superhero movie that I remember was Superman, coming out when I was like 5, 6 years old. Superman 1978 with Christopher Reeve, and that kind of sparked the sequels and ultimately the superhero barrage we all ended up dealing with. But prior to that, there wasn't. Studios weren't making superhero movies.
But it's like when you have an underground type of movement, like the comic book world was at the time.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they realized there were a lot of people watching comic books. They went, "Ooh, we can make money on this," and that's when you get all the movies that came out. And,
right.
But today, I mean, really, superheroes really play a big role in sick children. I mean, there's a lot of people. We're going to be talking to a couple of them actually this morning. That go into hospitals, kids that encounter, these superheroes that come in and dress up and come in and to see them, they can be, it can be, stressful. It can be scary, but they're trying to make kids forget that they're in hospital and going through these tough medical issues. And there are a lot of people that really realize that it's an escapism for kids that are dealing in cancer or sick hospitals across the country. We'll be talking later to a gentleman called Brett Culp, who's a digital filmmaker who spends his day uncovering stories and imagining them as moving pictures. I mean, each of his films is it's a cinematic documentary, and he's passionate about real stories with inspirational messages. I've actually seen this documentary. Actually, 3/4 of it. I didn't have time. I got sent it a couple of days ago, but it's really interesting to see how many people, and there's some very interesting comments in there. One guy left his, he made a huge amount of money and now travels the country dressed as Batman. And this story is mainly about Batman, and he dressed as Batman, and he spends $30,000 of his own money each year, dressed as Batman, driving the Batmobile, going into hospitals and talking to kids and helping them go through things. And some of them were like, I can't believe I just saw Batman. And they believe it's the real Batman. He talks that Batman becomes Batman. And it's interesting, his actual assistant said, it actually makes him a better person. He becomes a better person when he actually becomes Batman, because he's actually doing good, because there is a sense of who Batman was, of actually he had money, but he was actually trying to stop the injustices in the world. So I kind of think there is a role model to look at from a kid's point of view.
But was the Joker really an injustice, or was that Batman cleaning up his own messes and his own tragic blunderings of the past?
Well, you talk about the very first Batman episodes that came out on TV, which were, and actually looking at some of the things that they were talking about in this documentary, were a travesty to what they'd originally written back in the 1939 adaptations of it. And you look at it and you go, yeah, I get that. But then Hollywood went, well, we got to make it darker, we got to make it more meaner, we got to make it this. So they create the Joker, and now Batman. I mean, you look at the Heath Ledger's Batman, or some of the other actors that have played the Joker. They're very evil. They're the evil people. They're just really bad. You had Danny DeVito playing the Penguin, and and it was kind of bad, but
these are all people that are like social outcasts at some point, either abused by their parents. And I mean, we're not here to do a psychological study on them, but I think why this guy becomes a better person, if in fact that is true, is because, like you, he's on the ground level of helping people. He's at the epicenter of where the problem is, and when you interact with kids who are struggling, I think it does really connect with people on an emotional level. It's like we always say, if you do the actual charity act versus give money to someone who's going to do the charity act for you, it does change you.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It change because that is one of the things we've found, and I have found personally, is when I actually go and visit the kids and you see this smiles on their faces, all the pain that they're enduring, it's an entirely different perspective that you have on it. You're not... you don't have that chasm between you that it doesn't actually really make you realize what they're going through.
Right. Well, you've always been really good about that. I think that's one thing about the Peace Fund is, two things that actually come to mind immediately is the direct connection with the cause. And you were at that hospital, for example, where we worked hard to get that respirator installed to save lives. You were there. You saw the baby, the first girl going into it. You're not some faceless evil corporation that breaks off some money to look good in a PR sense and doesn't really know how it's funneled to help people.
I would be remiss saying, well, corporations are evil. I mean, we have a fantastic relationship now. We're beginning with Microsoft, which they did a fantastic.
Evil?
You
when
said
I say
evil there.
I mean evil in the nicest possible way.
Because they have, and we're hoping to work with them later in October, a month of giving for their employees, which is a fantastic thing for them to do.
1 month of giving from $1 billion company.
Hey, listen, it's better than nothing.
Well,
you got to think about it. A lot of corporations do not do it anyway, and some, like you say, do it for a tax write-off. But who cares? I don't care how they do it.
Yeah, do it for a tax write-off.
And remember, we at the Peace Fund, this show next year, we'll be looking for new sponsors probably to run this show. It's going to cost us, we are looking for sponsors. Let's leave it like that. So that's another thing.
One of the reasons we're looking for sponsors, the second point I was about to make about the epicness that is the Peace Fund is, what is it, 94, 96, 94 to 96% of all proceeds?
92 to 94%.
That goes right to the charity, which is an astronomical yield when you think about what administration really takes. And when you see charities, and we've cited some of them on this show that would take, say, $100 from everyone, but only donate maybe $4 of that $100 to the actual cause, just enough to say they're doing it. That's another.
Well,
thing
that's a whole other thing,
and
again, we like I did a few weeks ago, we highlighted some of those individual charities that are not good in that manner, and as I said, we are setting up a site. We're in still the process. It really is a technical nightmare in a sense, but we are setting up a site where we will put charities together to talk to each other, as well as have them on the new Peace Fund site, which is being populated as we speak. By our technicians, and they will have a site where we also highlight the charities that we know are doing great things that are actually perhaps small, some larger, but that are actually doing, putting money to where, they're raising money and putting it to where it should go, rather than actually spending it on lawyers' fees or their own corporate expenses.
We have a team of Oompa Loompas working around the clock on the new site.
It's funny. We were talking about superheroes just earlier on. There are so many other super. I don't know if you know this, Ethan. There's superhero window washers. From Tampa to Pittsburgh, Chicago to Memphis. They're being spotted everywhere, and they're fighting grime instead of crime. I didn't write that.
I was going to say, did you stay up all night on that?
I did not write that.
That has the painful sense of a man who was desperately rehearsing that all morning in the mirror, and actually on some level did execute it properly. So
Thank you very much.
Fighting grime.
Well, you got Spider-Man, Captain America, Batman, to name but a few. I mean, we had the Captain America theme, don't we?
We do have it. You ready?
I think we should play that.
Kapow!
See, isn't that uplifting to you?
That makes me want to wash windows. Right now, I want to
Actually, I've
jump
got some
up
you can wash as well. But no, but seriously, I mean, that type of, we look towards Captain America and Superman and Batman and all those. So you can imagine the kids when they see them coming through, they're washing their windows. It's actually, washing superheroes washing windows has actually gone viral online. So you've got hospitals are actually taking window washing companies to hop on board. So the superhuman trend is actually spreading everywhere.
I'm not surprised, especially with the high-rise window washers and where they're concerned, because really you need two qualities to. First of all, you got to overcome your boredom, and you got to be a little bit crazy to do that job in the first place, I think.
Oh gosh, you're all the way up there, yeah.
In the wind, take that scaffolding all the way up to the top of something in New York, and it's like working in a hurricane.
Yeah, but some of these are true, but these are hospitals. They're not quite that high. They might be about 6-7 stories. But
that takes guts too, because you're going to see a lot at a hospital.
Well, the interesting thing is there's actually Anna Robert Laurie Children's Hospital, Chicago. There's a quote from Kathleen Keenan, who's a hospital spokesman. She said, "I've been here a lot of years, but I've never seen anything like it. Nothing can brighten a day like a superhero. These three men truly become real-life superheroes when they are on that building, and their ropes become their webs." It was magical. Yeah. It was like each kid had their own superhero for a moment, and it was there with no glass between them. I just get kind of tingles feeling that for these kids that have been sitting in a room all day long, and probably for weeks in some cases, and have to go through all these operations, and they get that little sparkle. The guy's washing his window. Oh my God, it's Spider-Man.
I know, and how minor is that in the scope of the world?
It's tiny.
It's tiny. And if that means so much, just think of what you can do. Not you as an individual. We know what you're about, but just think what can be done.
But think about this. This is a simple.
Yeah.
What does it cost to put a costume on and do the job you were paid for? You're getting paid to do.
And the cost of the costume, right? So
that's it. I mean, and the amount of think about that when you go out there. I don't mean everybody go out and
Well, no. Let me finish your point. I mean, the question now is on everyone's mind: is what costume are you going to dress up as, Adrian?
Would I dress up as?
That's what everyone wants.
I think that Highlander guy would be probably.
No. You can't. I'm sorry. Somebody else has that gig.
Actually, now they do probably.
Yeah. No, seriously. Okay, you have to. All right.
What would I dress?
This actually would be an interesting YouTube segment of the show. Okay, we have to pick superhero outfits, and we're going to crash the children's hospital. What are we going to go to?
What about you guys out there? Tweet us. Tell us who do you think I should dress up as? That'd be kind of an interesting little choice.
Yeah.
And we might be able to read some of them at the end of the show. If you can tweet us now.
Well, there's two, and I've been very serious about this, not just with my background at Warner Brothers or everywhere I've worked, but there's two roles I thought you were perfect for, to be honest with you. And I thought if they ever reboot and do a 60s version of Bond, that's you. And I've said that publicly to every executive I've come across where you've come up or the show's come up. But also, I think you could probably take a crack at any number of Justice League villains. I think he'd be a good villain, and that's not a knock in any way. I mean, you just have, not that you have villainous qualities, you don't. You have admirable qualities.
Obviously, I do in your mind.
No, but you have you have the makings of a great villain. Like I just see you in like a tuxedo and like one of those cigarette, like those like long stem. I'm too busy to deal with you, Batman. Take this. That's just my thinking. But you can't really dress up as a villain, right? That doesn't really inspire kids at a hospital. But I would say go as what? Batman? What?
I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure.
The Question?
No, I wouldn't be the question. I mean, if you're talking about superhero, super villain, it depends on what You know, I mean,
well, let's get some ideas for Adrian going here on social media. Tweet the Peace Fund.
That'll be my next. It'll probably be my next Halloween costume.
And I think it should be my friend.
It's not a bad idea, is it? It's like, get that, But you've got, while you're thinking about that, there's another foundation. It's called Tiny Superheroes. You can visit them at tinysuperheroes.com. Mm-hmm. They're outfitting kids with superhero capes as they battle the force of disease.
Brilliant.
So it's the other way around. You're actually getting the kids involved.
Brilliant.
And she's made a few capes for fun. She sent one to a girl with severe skin condition along with a few other sick kids. Now the cape closet is full of requests pouring in from everywhere. There's about 1,700 children around the country that wear these capes branded with their first initial for the whole world to see. And then she posts their stories on her website, Tiny Superheroes, to empower the kids and highlight just how strong they are. I think that's great. Like, giving the kids something to really look up to.
That is a brilliant cause. In fact, hearing that was so brilliant, I didn't want to dare interrupt you with our first tweeted suggestion.
Okay, actually. What was it?
Well, I'm ashamed I did not think of this for you because this is very fitting. But longtime listener, one of our collaborators in
so was John
Washington.
Beerley.
No, it's not. But we'll get his take soon enough. Tyson Sainer said, quite obviously, you should have been the Matador.
Oh, no.
Where is the Duran Duran music when I need it?
I cannot believe it. My next-door neighbor came up to me. He'd been away, and he looked at me and says, "Hey, how are you? I've seen your videos." I said, "What?" He said, "I saw 2 videos." I said, 2?
That's it.
2? Yeah.
What a way to depreciate the actual value of the conversation.
That was just, it just
only
started
2.
off. Only 2. There's the only 2.
Well, I told you I saw that video again in Behind the Music on VH1 when they did Duran Duran. I was like, wow, what a way to continuously live in the art of another artist.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, so there's one, the Matador.
The Matador. What would it do, like, get the superheroes under my cape and, like, stab them? I don't know.
Well, the first thing I think of in a superhero outfit, right, and I'm sure you, Adrian, haven't, you've had so much experience in film, TV, and the stage that the first thing we think is functionality. Like, what am I going to want to be in for 9 hours,
Listen, I think we've got to get Brett Culp on here because we'll get a take from him about his new movie that he's doing. He's actually, you can get him online, Ethan?
Yes, actually. Let me pull it up.
And while you're doing that, I want to tell you, he's actually, he's been on Entertainment Tonight, Lifetime Network, and WETV. His work's been featured in USA Today, The Hollywood Reporter, US Weekly. And you can read about his filming style in the chapter about his work in the college textbook, Documentary Storytelling. His newest feature-length documentary, Legends of the Night, is about the ability we all have to be superheroes or heroes. It tells the uplifting true stories of individuals who were inspired to become real-life heroes by their childhood love of Batman. The film is being released worldwide in 2014, and the proceeds are benefiting not-for-profit organizations. He's launching a 501c3 not-for-profit that supports creating and sharing inspirational films, which will be www.wearebatman.com. He's very passionate about speaking to organizations, youth groups, and filmmakers, and we're going to hear from him in a second. It's about the powerful impact each of these stories can have on our communities and on the world. Now, I've actually I've seen the documentary, as I said before, and a couple of stories in there are really it's really amazing when you see the people that are in there who actually was a Batman fanatic or had that as a kid, and who they turned out to be. One of them is actually a gang, a police officer for gangs in Las Vegas. He fights crime that way. He's actually a real-life officer. Another one, as I said before, actually goes to kids' hospitals dressed as Batman. I mean, he actually is a multi-millionaire, from what I understand, in the documentary, and gave up his corporate world to give to kids. So when we get Brett on the phone, we will. I'm going to ask him a few questions about that because I want to hear why he started it, how he started it, etc., etc. Do we have him anywhere?
Well, we are on the line with him.
Hi, guys. Brett Culp here.
Brett, how are you with Adrian, Paul, and Ethan Dettenmaier?
Hi, guys. It's such a joy to be with you.
How are you doing this morning?
Wow, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. It's a geek out moment for me to be speaking with you.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Tampa, Florida today.
Oh, that's nice. Is it still humid down there?
Oh, it's always humid down here. We never can get away from it. But it's beautiful today. I took a run in my shorts this morning.
Oh, isn't that nice? So I saw your documentary. I saw 2/3 of it. I didn't finish it because I've got 2 kids to look after at the moment. So I only got it 2 days ago. So, but I really, one of them was in Tampa, Florida, and I saw that, and when I saw it, because I've been to Tampa, I was like, oh, he's in that Batman outfit in leather and everything else. I'm thinking he must be so hot in that thing.
Yes.
So how did you start this documentary, and why?
As a documentary filmmaker, I've watched over the course of my career how stories change people. This isn't just disposable entertainment we're part of. When we experience stories, it's changing us. And I wanted to make a film about that process. How are we changed? And I was looking for a story that kind of has permeated our culture for many generations, that's transmuted and changed, but in many ways kind of become modern folklore, modern myth. And I'm a lifelong Batman fan, so Batman was the perfect way to do it. And when I started doing the research, I found that there are so many people around the world who are getting inspiration and who are inspired by their love of Batman.
So I saw it. That's what surprised me. I just mentioned it now, that one of them was a gentleman that travels the country as Batman. Another one was a police officer out of the gangland out of Las Vegas. It's amazing how it inspired them as kids to become, giving back to society, if you like, a valid part of society. And I'm sure it's going to be doing that a lot more to kids as they promote what they've learned through that image.
Yeah, I think that there is something in us as little kids. Well, all human beings, I think, but particularly when we're children, we all dream of being heroes. It's the reason why we're still so attracted to action and adventure movies with heroes today. We feel deep down in our guts, maybe, we could be a hero like that. We could make a positive difference. And I think these stories, the power of a story like Batman is there's a Batman for 3-year-olds and there's a Batman for 30-year-olds. This is a character they figured out how to put him in all different genres. So, at every stage of my life, there's been a different Batman. And I think because of that, and because he's human and he doesn't have any superpowers, I think he's very relatable. And it's why so many people around the world wear that symbol on their chest, on their T-shirts, and would love to be Batman.
Right. We actually spoke this morning about the first Batman, the TV series. Did you watch that?
I did when I was a little kid, yes.
Yeah, and so how do you compare that to what the Batman has turned into these days?
Oh, my goodness. Well, for little kids, that old Adam West and cartoony Batman, that still exists. You can watch Cartoon Network and see that Batman still in action. But for us as adults, I kind of feel like Batman has evolved for me. I'm 37 years old. I feel like Batman has evolved for me as I have evolved. When I was a teenager, Tim Burton's Batman movie came out with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, and that was a darker version. And now we're into these, as you mentioned, these Christopher Nolan movies that we've experienced over the past decade that have political messages and socioeconomic messages, and now we're not just in Pal Zap and Wham Land anymore, and so I think they have seen in this character there's something about him that has the ability to connect to us on even a superficial pop art level, but also at the deepest level of using him as a hero to tell a story that has much deeper meanings.
Who's your favorite Batman? Who's your favorite?
I actually have an interesting answer, and my answer after making this film, my favorite Batman is the little kid that puts the Batman cape around their neck and runs through the backyard pretending that they're Batman. That, to me, is the most important Batman, because that's the Batman that's going to make a positive difference in the world in the years ahead. Well said.
Well said. So what are you going to be doing with the film?
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. We created this film with this to inject the heart of Batman into the world, and we wanted to create a distribution opportunity that had that same spirit and that allowed people to engage in a positive way and be heroes in the process. So what we've done is we've created a unique partnership with a website called Tugg, and you may have not heard of them. It's TUGG.com. And what they're allowing us to do is that anyone in the U.S. can request a screening of our film Legends of the Night in their city at a local theater. And so you request the screening. Tug works with you to get it all set up, and the proceeds that would have come to our studio from that screening, instead of going to us, will go to the charity that you choose. And so a person gets to request a screening, watch this inspirational movie, invite all their friends to be there with them, and help a charity in the process.
Well, I mean, I think that's amazing. So anybody can actually say, I want to do a screening of Batman and I'd like it to be sort of donated to a charity. How do people get together and actually figure this out?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, which is wearebatman.com, there's a ton of information there about how it works and how you can do it. But, the power today of our social networks and Twitter and Facebook is that once you request the screening and you start sharing, hey, on Thursday night, in a few weeks from now, we're going to do this. You can reserve your tickets here. Then people can start to reserve their tickets, and all the information about the details is there on our website, wearebatman.com, for how it works. But ultimately, we've been doing these screenings. There are currently about 60 of them lined up all over the country. We've done about 15 of them so far, and it's amazing to go out and see the people come out in their capes and little kids come out in their Batman costumes and enjoy this inspirational evening together with this film, Legends of the Night.
Now, I know you'd actually been contacted, or you're a friend of John Bale. I'm not sure which that was.
Yes.
And he'd mentioned to me that you wanted to do something for the Peace Fund, that we talked about that. He said, could we do that? And I'm like, I'd be happy. That would be fun.
Oh, I'd love for you guys to do that. That'd be great. And it's a great inspirational evening for everyone, and it makes a positive difference. It inspires us all to be heroes. I love it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as I said, I've seen it, and it really was, to see some of the things that were actually there. And I said, I've only seen 2/3 of it. But some of the stories in there are really quite... How long did it take you to make the film?
It was a 2-year journey for me. It took about 4 months to find the initial stories. Then it took over a year to film, and then the edit took about 6 to 9 months, where I was kind of filming and editing at the same time. But it was an amazing journey. We filmed in 15 different cities and interviewed over 80 people by the time it was done. And just getting to hang out with, every single person in this movie whose story is featured, to me, is a hero and is doing something amazing either in their world or for their community. And so it was just a joy to spend some time around them and for myself to be inspired by them. And in the editing room, of course, you get so inspired by them, you want to make sure you do them justice and really share the story in a positive way. And this is a positive movie. It's, so many documentary films are negative and talking about the bad things happening in the world. This is one of those films that's about the good stuff going on. And I think it's very uplifting.
Have you done any other movies like this?
I haven't. Most of the work that I have done has been shorter form. It's been for not-for-profits, for corporations, for different things like that. This is the first documentary film that I've done that's been widely released in theaters like this. So it's been a joy to watch it be embraced like this and watch so many people embrace the message of it.
Okay. And I think the gentleman you actually have in your film, is that Lenny Robinson?
It is, yes,
right.
yes,
yeah.
yes.
I saw when he's pulled up by the police in 2012. I thought it was really funny. He gets pulled because he was dressed in full Batman gear in a Lamborghini. I was like, what? And they couldn't believe it. They got out of the car. I saw when they got out of the car, they were like, well, what are you doing, sir?
His story is so great. We just did the premiere of the film in Charlotte, North Carolina last week, and he came down with the Batmobile and went to a couple of different hospitals there, went to some schools with young people. And his story is really just this amazing situation where he was just doing this kind of on a small scale. And then when that video you're referring to of him getting pulled over by the Baltimore area police, when that video went viral, all of a sudden the demand for him to do this just went off the charts. Yeah. And so now he travels all over the country, and people are just asking him to come, and he does it, and spends all his own money to do it, and this is kind of his job now. It's really cool.
I think that's awesome. I think it's. To actually change what he did. Yes, he's made his mark in the world financially in the cyber world. From what I was told. He's now making his mark in a totally different way. When I think it's great that he's actually been able to take a step back and say, okay, where do I want my life? And I found this a lot with people that, not everybody. Sometimes I find that people that make money want to make more, but some people that make money say, okay, I've made my money, and now I want it to give back. I want to sort of give something back that my life means more than just making financial gain.
Yes.
I was talking with 911 for Kids, which is an organization, a nationwide organization, teaching kids how to use 911 correctly. And one of the sponsors was exactly that. He made a lot of money in actually renovating houses or for the banks. He wasn't very popular. Because the banks need to, when they take over a property, they need to upkeep it, so they hire companies to do that. But he said, I made my business when it went from the 2009 crash, went from 4 people in the office to 150, and and it went nationwide. But now I've done that. I want to give back. So he's working with 911 for Kids, which I think all power to him to do that. And it's the same as Brett. Sorry, not as Brett. As Lenny. I'm calling him you now. That's good.
That's okay.
Well, you're both superheroes from doing it, really, in a sense. So, no, but seriously, it is inspiring, and I think people should hear about that. I've seen here that he talks to schools about bullying as well.
Yes.
Kids in sick hospitals, but he does not do birthday parties because it's not just for it's not for fun. It's to give some hope to some kids.
That's right. That's his mission, and you've nailed it exactly right. I mean, he spent his life, being successful in the world, and now he wants to give back. And what's so exciting about this movie that I love is, I don't know how far you got into the movie, but then the next story right after Lenny is of this 19-year-old kid in Petaluma, California, named Petaluma Batman, who has no wealth, who has no fortune, who has no big success. And yet he puts on this little cheapy Batman costume and rides around on this little scooter and anonymously does good for people in his community. And I love the contrast between, here's Lenny Robinson, who's been a huge success in the world, that's now using that as an opportunity to make a difference, contrasted with this young man who, has no resources and yet is still making a positive, inspired difference in his community with what he brings to the table. And I think it just shows wherever you are, whatever position you find yourself in today, you can still do something great and make a positive difference in your community, in your family, and in the world. You just have to start right now, wherever you are.
Absolutely. I think we have John Bale on the line now, do we? John, are you there?
I do. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, John.
Brett, so nice to finally get to actually speak to you. Brett and I have emailed quite a bit, met via Josh Costella, who was one of the executive producers on the documentary. Josh and I have written together and podcasted together for modernmythmedia.com, a movie news superhero website run by Sean Gerber, and before that with Bill Ramey and BatmanOnFilm.com, a couple of sites that have done a lot of really great work in helping promote Brett and his documentary, which is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, Brett, your documentary moved me more than many of the actual films and books that I've read of these characters. Just to see in action the effect that these characters and their stories and their values have on real people who are going through some extremely real challenges in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely beautiful. Knocked me out.
Oh, thank you. Which story in the film, I'll put you on the spot, which story in the film was your favorite? I know it's hard, but that's a question I always have for everybody when they finish the film.
Oh, that is tough.
I would save that question, John.
The good thing about your film, Brett, honestly, is I think it's difficult to choose because they're all so different. You're not seeing the same story. You're not seeing the same story over again. Jill Pantazzi, for example, her challenges are different than someone else's. Or you have Petaluma Batman, who is giving all these people entertainment value and making people smile and enjoy, and it's just they're all different, and that's what I like. That's what I like so much about them. That's why I think the documentary is so effective. Is just it's not the same thing over and over again. It's different stories, different aspects coming at it from different angles, and I think that's why it's so moving. It's such an emotional roller coaster that by the end, I mean, if you're not smiling and feeling great and tears in your eyes, you may not be alive.
So Brett, do you have a publicity department? Because if you don't, John will do it for you.
Yeah.
I just need to take him everywhere with me. And, John, whenever I get in a fight with my wife, I'm just going to have you say, well, look, listen to John. Listen to how great I am.
Exactly. Well, you can find the film's trailer.
You can keep me on speed dial.
You can find the film's trailer and all the details on your website, correct? www.wearebatman.com. And from what I hear, John, there's a screening in Los Angeles to benefit the Peace Fund. The date will be is to be determined. We will be working on that, so we're going to be bringing that to you as well. Brett, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome, and I look forward to talking to you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite. And now I'm gonna go geek out and watch some Highlander reruns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brett. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
So, John, I think that's a great... When are we going to be doing this movie screening? Okay, when is it? Have we...
Well, hey, I'm ready to do it tonight.
No, I think it's a little... we need to advertise it somehow.
A little bit of lead time. We'll need to pick out a good theater, which since I'm over here in Indiana, I may need a little bit of help from you LA guys in picking out a good theater. But once we get a theater chosen, we can move from there, get a date set, and get this to happen.
All right, we'll talk about it with all our friends and around the LA area. What sort of venues are we looking at? Is it a local theater?
Actually, if you go to tug.com, which Brett had mentioned, tugg.com, you can go back through and see some of the other screenings that they've had in the Los Angeles area, kind of get an idea of some of the movie theaters that they've used so far. So we'll start from there and build. Okay, all right. So, Hero of the Week. I think you're ready for that one, aren't you, John? Oh man, I tell you what, it's so exciting. It's so exciting that superheroes are our topic today. I mean, I grew up. I was born in 1975, so I grew up with Star Wars and Christopher Reeve Superman, Linda Carter on TV as Wonder Woman, and Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. It was just this golden age, I think, in the late 70s of some of these characters really starting to get their due in the mainstream. And I grew up with it and and luckily, my parents were always enjoyed watching how those films affected me. So they had as much fun seeing those movies as I did. And it was a great way to grow up with those heroes, sort of in your life. And that's, basically, honestly, that's how I ended up with the Peace Fund. There was this hero on television named Duncan MacLeod who I thought was pretty awesome.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Hold up. Who was that? It's getting a little... I have to step outside the studio for a minute.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I think it's good to put it that way because, it's you can be a fan of something like this and use it to help other people, and that's what we've been able to do here at the Peace Fund. That's how I got involved, was through interest in Highlander, met Adrian, ended up working with the Peace Fund. It's been an unbelievable adventure that I can't believe I've been able to be a part of, and I think anybody out there can learn from that. All of us don't have suits of armor or magical hammers or heat vision or any of these other things to knock back alien invasions, and you don't need to do that. Any of us in our daily lives can make a difference with kindness to another person. I guarantee that everyone who's listening today, whether it's your own children, nieces or nephews, your friends' kids, everybody has... we all have a child in our life who would love it if we would sit down with them and read a book or build a Lego or do something like that to let that kid know that they matter. And speaking of Legos, that brings us to an extremely awesome Hero of the Week. This one is one of my absolute favorite bits of ingenuity that we have heard so far from our heroes. Our hero today is 12-year-old Shubham Banerjee from Santa Clara, California. He's in 7th grade. Shubham was checking the mail, and there was a flyer in the mail for a group that was asking for donations for visually impaired people who needed help affording equipment to be able to read. Now, Shubham looks at this flyer and he just can't believe it. He can't understand how in the world can someone who is visually impaired or blind not have what they need to do something that all of us take for granted, as simple as reading. So he starts to do some research and figures out that there are, let's look at this very, very sad number here, 285 million people worldwide who are visually impaired. 90% of those are in developing countries where they can barely afford food and water, much less Braille printers, which can cost upwards of $2,000 just for a printer.
So ridiculous.
Unbelievable. So he sits down and he thinks, well, what can I do to make a difference? What do I know? And one of the things that he knows is Legos. So he buys a Lego Mindstorms EV3 kit, which is about these kits run about $350, and takes some existing patterns for a Braille printer that he finds online, comes up with his own software and hardware ideas, and makes a Braille printer from Legos. Now, the result is something that he's calling Braigo, Braigo, which is a combination of Braille and Lego. You can find out all about it on facebook.com/Braigo printer. And he has a prototype that prints Braille using Legos and a thumbtack. The thumbtack is what he uses to make the perforations, the indentations in the paper that once it's printed, someone who's visually impaired can run their fingers over it and read the letters in Braille. Absolutely amazing.
Brilliant.
Wait a minute. When did he? So he has a prototype. Nobody's approached him yet to actually put this into production.
This has actually all happened very, very recently. Very recently, just within the last couple of weeks, a lot of the news articles have started to come out about this. And one of the reasons that he wanted to do something himself is because he had studied other methods that other people had talked about online when he started to do his research. But most of the projects that he found out about just simply, they never moved forward. So he's like, well, if nobody else is going to try to move forward with this technology, I'm going to do something about it. And one of the really cool things that he wants to do is make the technology open source, so that anyone can use it. So he's already working hard through his website, like you said, which is facebook.com/Braigo printer, to get his method and his idea out there so that other people can use it and build upon it. He's not interested in basically he's interested in showing the way and inviting other people to help and make this project even larger, so that people who are visually impaired can actually have printers to print material rather than having to rely on these extremely expensive devices.
How old is he now?
He's 12 years old.
12 years old.
Unreal.
12 years old.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it's basically replicated a $2,000 machine with some Legos and a thumbtack. And some ingenuity, obviously. And it's really, really cool. It's one of the cool things that he says on his website. He says, I think Braigo making the news will rejuvenate others, and the beneficiary will be visually impaired individuals. All good for humankind. What a beautiful sentiment to come from a 12-year-old who's not interested in fame or fortune. He's simply interested in, hey, I figured out how to make this work with Legos and a thumbtack. That means if we all work together, we can accomplish something even bigger that will touch even more lives.
I had Lego when I was a kid, but it's kind of like it's like a dinosaur compared to what they have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at it. I went to a little thing with my kids and they had a Lego exhibition, and the tiny pieces and the flat ones, the long ones, the tall ones, the houses, the windows, you could make an entire city out of Lego now. It's just incredible what they've achieved.
And people do that.
Yeah, people do. Yeah, it's quite astounding. Well, I think and Braigo is spelled Braigo for those of you that may have missed it.
Yes.
Well, how do you say? Is it Shubham? Shubham
Banerjee.
Shubham Banerjee. Shubham, if you're listening, you are the Peace Fund Hero of the Week. Congratulations. I think that's a wonderful thing, and you better have a patent on this thing, son, because someone's going to want it. John, you also have another bit of news for us regarding Shred Kids for Cancer.
I love this. Yes, Tegan Stedman, who has been interviewed on Peace Fund Radio before, he started an organization called Shred Kids Cancer. Tegan is 14 years old now. He was 8 years old when he started the charity. He's raised over $100,000 for pediatric cancer research and awareness. This past Sunday, March 9th, Tegan and his organization raised over $27,000 in the Los Angeles Marathon. The last time they raised $27,000, they wrote a grant to one of the large children's hospitals in California for cancer research. Tegan is constantly writing very large grants for cutting edge.
Okay, how did he raise $27,000? Did he run in the marathon? Did people sponsor him for it? How was it done? Do you know?
They had 30 people on the team who were a combination of runners, people getting the publicity out through Facebook and Twitter and different social media to get pledges in place.
And ASICS obviously sponsored them as well, from what I see.
Yeah, so a really big network of just ground floor, on the ground, get the people out, get the word out, get it done type thing. And you can read all about the details of how they did it at shredkidscancer.org. Now, this Saturday, as if raising $27,000 this past weekend wasn't enough, this weekend Tegan will be holding Shredfest 6 at the House of Blues in Los Angeles from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And again, you can read all the details on shredkidscancer.org. There are celebrity judges and performers. There's going to be a red carpet. They have an incredible list of auction items, including autographed guitars from Eric Clapton, movie posters. There's a Godfather movie poster that's signed by Al Pacino, James Caan, Robert Duvall, Francis Ford Coppola, and several other members from the cast. Some signed sheet music from Mariah Carey, a James Bond movie poster signed by all 6 Bonds. And that's just some of the items that they will have for auction, in addition to some incredible live music from some really great bands. So this is one of our heroes of the week who just never rests, never keeps just never stops. Shredfest 6 is going to be dedicated to a young lady named Caitlin Lehman. She's 9 years old. She is battling rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a form of cancer that mostly affects children. It gets into the skeletal muscles. It wraps around intestines. It's just really, really nasty. It's difficult to treat, very painful to treat. So Tegan is, again, on the cutting edge of getting money through grants, through the funds he raises, to the organizations and science that are working hard to find cures for these diseases.
All right, John, I've got to wrap you up there because we are at the end of our show. Thank you so much for bringing us all of that, and we'll talk some more because I think we're going to set up that Batman screening in LA for the Peace Fund.
We do,
and we will be bringing a lot. There's so much happening behind the scenes, as you know, John.
I do. And exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so we'll be bringing more and more about that. But as we move forward, we're just gaining momentum with the other charities that we're pulling together to make a difference in the lives of a lot of kids around the planet. John, thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you, guys.
Ethan, thanks for helping us put this together. Thank you to the Speechley family for making this show possible. Again, as I said, we will probably be looking for funders or sponsors for next year's show, the year after that. In closing, I think the only way we can close this show is a quote from Batman, and this one's from The Dark Knight Rises, and some of you may know it. A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple as reassuring as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know that the world hasn't ended. This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. We hope we hear from you again. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.